My husband's coworker proceeded to poison me with a congratulatory cake for my pregnancy, but I pressed charges even though my husband defended her. I'm in a very complicated situation right now, and it's my husband and in-laws who have put me in this position. My husband, let's call him Tyler, has been with me for the past 4 years. We've been married for 2 years, and a couple of weeks ago I discovered I was pregnant. Obviously, we were very happy because I've always wanted to be a mother and have a small family of my own, so this was wonderful. But we decided to keep it secret for a while. Only our families knew. Since some time had passed, we decided to announce it by organizing a party with all our acquaintances because we believe it's a joyful occasion that deserves to be celebrated properly. We posted an announcement on social media and then sent invitations for the party. We invited all our close friends, our families, and there were also some work colleagues, including Jessica, Tyler's co-worker. They started together at the company and have been very good friends for several years. At the party, she insisted on baking a cake for me even though we had told her it wasn't necessary. But she said she wanted to congratulate us properly and that she's a self-taught baker. Tyler convinced me to accept it, and at that moment it really didn't seem like a big deal, so I accepted. She arrived at the party with a very pretty little chocolate cake, or at least that's what it looked like. But with just one bite, I knew I had to get rid of the entire cake, and if I had accidentally ingested part of that cake, the consequences could have been very serious for me. Why did I think that? Because as soon as I tasted it, I knew the inside was full of peanuts, and literally everyone who knows me knows I have a severe peanut allergy. I've always had it, to the point where I can go into anaphylactic shock. Moreover, from the amount of peanuts I felt in my mouth with the first bite, I knew this was intentional. There was no way I could think that a chocolate cake with that amount of peanuts would be a success at a party. No normal person would put so many peanuts in a cake, not even by mistake. And she had hidden it very well. From the outside it looked like a regular chocolate cake. Anyway, as soon as I tasted the cake I started spitting it out, not caring what others thought. Obviously that was a big scene for everyone because there I was spitting cake on the floor. But then I told them the cake had a lot of peanuts and I couldn't eat that, which made sense to everyone who knew about my allergy. They understood what was happening. But I didn't care what others thought. I started yelling directly at Jessica for trying to poison me on purpose. I was furious, so much so that Tyler literally had to take me out of the room and bring me to our bedroom so I could calm down a bit. I was there for about 10 minutes, and when I returned, Jessica was no longer there. Fortunately, that small taste wasn't enough to cause me a very big reaction that would take me to the hospital. I only needed my medication and to stay calm for the rest of the night. The rest of the night went on as if nothing had happened. And everyone was kind enough to pretend that what happened before wasn't that important, and they tried to cheer me up, and it worked more or less. By the end of the party I felt much better, but when everyone left, Tyler told me he knew for certain that Jessica had done all that on purpose, and I immediately told him I wanted to press charges against her. I hadn't done it during the party, because I was recovering, but when my husband told me she might have done it on purpose, I was furious again. But then Tyler tried to convince me it wasn't her fault. One minute he tells me he knew she did it on purpose, and the next he's telling me it wasn't her fault. But the defense was even more surreal to me. For Tyler, it was an impulsive decision because she has been dealing with infertility for years, and that already cost her a marriage. So she's been very resentful about that and maybe wasn't taking my pregnancy too well. She and her husband were together since college, got married and were married for a couple of years until he asked for divorce 3 years ago, and since then Jessica has been pretty bad. But honestly, I had no idea that her struggle with infertility was the reason her marriage ended, and I suppose I would have felt bad for her if I had known before and if she hadn't tried to purposely cause me an allergic reaction just to vent her jealousy and insecurity. For whatever reason, Tyler knew all this and told me he had talked to Jessica after what happened to me while I was in our room trying to calm down. He was talking to her, trying to understand why she would do something like that. Apparently she broke down in tears and said she had made a big mistake, that she was very sorry but she was very upset and resentful and that's why she did it, and she practically begged him not to press charges against her. And he had already promised her we wouldn't. I don't know why, since I should be the one to decide that. It wasn't his place to make that decision. She tried to hurt me, not him. So I don't understand why he made that promise when he really wasn't in a position to do so. I was furious. I couldn't believe he was defending a woman who had literally tried to poison me, especially when I'm pregnant in such a delicate condition. God knows what could have happened. I was lucky to realize it had peanuts and spit it out. I didn't ingest anything, so there were no serious symptoms. But still, her intentions were bad and I couldn't believe Tyler was defending her. We had a big fight about it. But anyway, I called the police to come take a statement there and make a formal complaint because I wasn't going to let it pass for one more second. My husband also didn't like that I was telling the police that nothing had happened and that it was my hormones talking, but I told them everything and gave them the names of some people from the party so they could verify. The next day, my in-laws came to talk to me about what was happening. I thought they were going to be on my side because normally they are people who walk on the side of sane people. But there they were also justifying the indefensible. They also told me I should drop the charges because of everything Jessica has been through, that it was natural for her to feel that way. These people went crazy. Is it natural to try to poison me and cause an allergic reaction just out of jealousy? I'll answer that for you. Know what's natural is making a complaint for attempted poisoning, whether out of jealousy or whatever. It's absurd. And I also argued with them because they all insisted I should forgive, forget, and let it pass. And I may be seen as stubborn, but I'm not going to drop the complaint. Right now I'm not talking to my husband or my in-laws, and it bothers me because instead of telling me I'm right and supporting me, I'm living in an alternate reality where what Jessica did is okay. All that's missing is for them to parade her honor and pamper her because all this she did has traumatized her. I'll tell you what will traumatize her: the consequences of her actions. Yes, I have talked about this with my friends and my parents. But I've only discussed it with very close friends and my family because I don't want this to become public. And they've all told me that clearly I'm not wrong. And I don't have to feel bad about this. I mean, everyone sees what I'm doing as normal. I didn't cause her infertility and I didn't force her to try to poison me. So for those who wondered if it was just my husband and in-laws or if there were more people with a screw loose, you have your answer. Update 1: my original post was a couple of days ago and I hope posting so soon doesn't go against this sub's policies. Nothing has changed in what I think. My husband and in-laws haven't managed to convince me otherwise. For now, I plan to keep playing on the team of people who don't have mental illnesses, although enough time has passed for me to think it embarrasses me that people remember ever seeing me sitting in a restaurant with this group of crazies. Is there any way to report crazy people? It would be very useful right now. For those who said I should avoid stress right now being pregnant because of the whole complaint thing, here's my answer. I don't know how it works for you, but it gives me more stress not making the complaint and letting a person like Jessica, who for any reason seeks to poison another, be loose. If I had decided not to press charges, I wouldn't even be sleeping. This wasn't a greeting card saying something like, "I hope your baby dies." It was directly an attempt that luckily went wrong for her. I wouldn't sleep knowing she's loose and ready to try again. Maybe next time she decides to enter my house with a knife out of jealousy, and then my husband and in-laws saying we have to understand this woman's pain. That's why she stabbed up 33 times. At least there were no serious consequences. She only died a little. Yes, this is the level of craziness they're handling right now. Jessica was arrested and is facing quite serious charges. Some people from my party testified to what they saw, so that's the matter now. I'm also going to try to get a restraining order against her. I don't want her to ever come near me again, even if she gets out of there. Maybe some judge thinks the chocolate cake idea neutralized my allergy and it was a good gesture from her, so I'm not going to risk it. Anyway, the word divorce is also on the table, although I haven't even had a meeting with a lawyer yet. And I know it may seem too soon to talk about this, but this isn't one of those things that gets fixed with therapy. I don't see how to fix things with him, not only because he's been very stubborn but because neither he nor his family seem to understand the seriousness of the matter. She knew about my allergy. It's not the first time we've seen each other in life, and we've shared meals where she's seen my concern about how food is prepared. It's not a mistake he could misinterpret, and even he knows she did it on purpose. So it's very difficult to come back from that. Yesterday afternoon, because I couldn't stand being in that house anymore and I had found out about the arrest before he did, I decided to tell him I was going to my parents' house before things got worse. I thought he would try to stop me, but instead he simply told me that given the circumstances, he thought it was best. This is complicated because we're expecting a baby together, but it's too hard for me not to think about the safety of this future baby. I mean, she was jealous of me. I don't see why she couldn't be jealous of the baby. It's part of the same unresolved problem she has that clearly motivated her to do all this. Now my next step is to get a lawyer and make it official. For some it will be hasty, but I'm desperate to get out of that madhouse. Update 2. I know many people in the comments weren't happy because in my last update I talked about how I was willing to leave my husband and that I should at least give him a new chance. I consider myself lucky to have survived an attempted murder and also an attempt to make me miscarry. I don't know if I want to risk it again. I'd rather use my good luck to go to Las Vegas or something like that where the risks are a bit lower. Whoever wants to try it is welcome, and then they can tell me how it went. Although everything exploded even more, Jessica has been given charges for attempted murder among other things, and this has already reached Tyler's ears. To say he wasn't happy is an understatement, but it was expected that he would be completely willing to defend her knowing exactly what she did. He came to my parents' house ready to talk to me either the easy way or the hard way, according to what he told my father. However, he didn't get past the door because my father told him then it will be the hard way and kicked him off his property as soon as he showed the tone he wanted to talk with. They argued for a while with my father standing at the house door, and my husband from the sidewalk, yelling at each other. But at least my husband didn't dare cross the property line again. I was watching everything from the upstairs room. My father was handling everything very well, and talking in the state Tyler was in wasn't the most convenient. Up to that point I hadn't asked for divorce, so his anger had nothing to do with that and everything to do with the charges I filed against Jessica. He's not angry because his work friend wanted to poison me. He's not angry because she almost killed me or my baby. And he's not angry because I left home. His anger is about one thing only, and that shows, besides all the rest of the things, where his concerns are. For those who asked about my baby's health, I've had a checkup recently and everything looks normal. Having spit out the peanut and not having ingested it, I didn't develop a severe allergic reaction in my body and it didn't affect my child. And for those who ask how I knew what they taste like, it's because I've eaten them before. In my case, the allergy developed when I was 7 or 8 years old, and until then I had tried them, although I wasn't the biggest fan. It was as if my body and mind already knew, but it wasn't until I was 12 that I suffered a very severe reaction that showed me what eating them can do to my body. Until then, the sporadic times I consumed them only caused me a rash. This wasn't planned, but before his visit I had seen a lawyer as I said earlier. In my head there was no other solution for this matter. However, the timing was a bit coincidental, and my ex came to try to talk to me on a Sunday, and on Monday the papers were filed. It's good that the papers were filed quickly because there isn't much to divide and we only need to reach a custody agreement when the baby is old enough to spend time alone with his father, but I don't know why it took him so long to come see me after knowing about the official charges against Jessica, or as some people have called her, the work wife. I had to look this up on the internet because I didn't know exactly what it meant, and apparently it's a wife you have at work but without the sex part, although I find it hard to believe there wasn't any with such a defense he's made for her. My biggest assumption is that they've evaluated their options and unless I drop my complaint, she won't have it easy. But at this point, with such serious charges, I don't think dropping my complaint would help. This case already has a prosecutor and the case is moving forward, but yes, I got a new visit from Tyler after the papers on Monday night, and it was ugly, but from a distance. He didn't dare cross the property line with my father standing at the door, and I went out to confront him to finish clarifying everything. He said I couldn't do this to him, that it was going too far and that I was the worst of the worst because I wasn't only being vindictive with Jessica but I also wanted to divorce him. He calls it vindictive. I call it what had to be done, not only the complaint but also the divorce. Because if more proof was needed that divorce was necessary, there it is. I didn't need it. I had been convinced from the moment he said, I think she did it on purpose but you should forgive her. These are more proofs for those who say it was too quick to divorce me, that surely I already have a lover, that the child isn't his, and that I was looking for an excuse to get out of the marriage. But those and all other things will be easily resolved when it's time to talk about child support and the judge orders a DNA test, which I'm willing to take because there's nothing to hide. Too bad there isn't something similar for my soon-to-be ex-husband and his work wife. I suppose that one wouldn't come back so well, and they're the people who defend him could no longer do so. Or they probably could, because there are people who read these stories with the bias of looking for anything the op says to make them look like the bad guy. I've read stories where they skip several things to take something out of context and say it's just that op deserved it. Let's ignore that op was shot 3 times. How she once stole dessert from one of her friends at school because she was hungry is enough reason to see her as the bad one. Sometimes I don't know if these people are trolls or simply wrong in the head, and here I am responding to them. Update 3 news and more news. The divorce is proceeding as expected because we're not arguing about anything material. The custody agreement is still too early to discuss because our child hasn't been born yet. Yes, we already know the gender.as for Jessica. Things are a bit more complex. Her lawyer started by arguing that she didn't know about my allergy and that it was just an accident. They said this to try to dismiss the case, but with the prosecutor's help we've proven that she did know, and for now we have a date for the trial to begin. We believe their strategy now is to say that Jessica only expected an allergic reaction but that her purpose wasn't to kill me. That would change her possible sentence because attempted murder in our state can reach life imprisonment, depending on the degree of attempt and other factors, so changing the focus is their best strategy. But there's still the aggravating factor that she did it knowing I was pregnant and that an allergic reaction could bring consequences for my pregnancy. If I must be honest with you, giving her at least 10 years would be a great victory for us. For now she's been Tylered bail, which my ex has helped her get with a bail bondsman, but she's prohibited from approaching me. My husband has avoided contacting me, which makes the divorce process easier, and because there's nothing to discuss with him. But his parents haven't done the same. But here's an interesting change with my in-laws. They've come to extend an olive branch and apologize. They've left the dimension of madness, the land of Crazyland, and believe things have gotten very serious. Or so it seems. When Jessica was officially charged, they saw it wasn't just a misunderstanding. According to them, they thought Jessica didn't know about my allergy and that I was exaggerating. But when my husband told them he thought she had done it on purpose, they decided to jump ship. But for me, they jumped like rats because they defended her saying she did it because of her pain, only they don't want to be stuck to the craziness of what's happening. I reminded them of this, and their excuse was that they thought Jessica had forgotten I was allergic because of her pain, which to me makes no sense. It didn't make sense when it all started, and it doesn't make sense now. Now we'll have to wait for what happens with the divorce and with Jessica's trial, but I don't think these things will be resolved quickly. Update 4. I have a small update about my life right now, although unfortunately not the conclusion of all my problems. We're still waiting for the completion of Jessica's trial, which hasn't started yet. I don't know how long it will last, but hopefully less than we suppose. With all the evidence and witnesses, not only from the party, but also from other opportunities where my allergy was discussed and she was present, also my ex-husband will be called as a witness, because even he knows what she did. But I don't think he's reliable. To tell the truth, that would end the trial quickly. But we can't rely only on that. And that's why the prosecutor prepares more evidence and witnesses. The divorce is already finalized, as I said at the beginning. And it was the simplest of all this. There's nothing to discuss until my baby is born. And things will get complicated again. With my lawyer, we're thinking of asking for full custody due to all these events. But I won't have more news for you until at least the baby is born. And yes, I'm also anxious about that, not only for the birth, but to resolve all the things that are still up in the air. Update 5. Jessica's trial has concluded, and she was found guilty. She was given 12 years in prison, but with the possibility of asking for parole at 8 years. For me, it's a positive result because at least it will be 8 years inside, with the possibility of 4 more depending on various factors. There's not much to tell about the trial. Their strategy was what we suspected, but the amount of evidence was quite large. Even my ex-husband had to confess under oath that she knew and that it was likely she had done it intentionally. He didn't risk lying under oath and having consequences himself. But yes, he cried in the courtroom when they read her sentence, the same courtroom where I attended and where my parents also attended to keep me company. Tyler didn't try to talk to me, nor did we make eye contact. Practically, each one went about their business. He to hope Jessica wouldn't be found guilty, and me to have her convicted. My son was also born between updates, but we still haven't talked about the custody agreement. That's my last step, and I hope it's the last of my entire story. I know it's something many in the comments are waiting for because they still think my son isn't Tyler's or something like that. It doesn't worry me in the least a DNA test, just the fact of the custody agreement. I hope the next and probably final update is positive. People have commented on the fact that my husband might have been part of Jessica's plan. Well, needless to say, I've suspected that too. That was a hypothesis the police and prosecutor had but couldn't prove. Update 6. I have news and the end to my story because I don't think I'll update after this. Yes, the DNA test with Tyler came back positive. And my son is his son. He hasn't been able to avoid paying child support. As for the custody agreement, he renounced his parental rights, so he won't be able to demand before a judge in the future to participate in his son's life. He argued it, saying that although it's his son, he doesn't want to be responsible for a child who will be born being like his mother. What he wants is for me to be a doormat who sets aside that his probable or almost certain lover tried to poison me, and that those be the values for his son. That's not the case, and I'm not going to betray my ideals for a man without them, or if he has them, they're very questionable. This would be the conclusion of everything, and I thank the people who prefer to live on Earth and not in Crazyland.